Best full suspension mountain bike. A full suspension mountain bike is the perfect choice for anyone looking for a versatile and durable bike. A full suspension mountain bike features shocks on both the front and rear wheels, which helps to cushion the rider from bumps and rocks on the trail. This makes it easier to ride over rough terrain, and also provides a more comfortable ride. When shopping for a full suspension mountain bike, it is important to consider the different types of suspensions available. There are three main types of suspensions: hardtail, dual suspension, and 4-bar linkage. Hardtail bikes have a suspension in the front only, while dual suspension bikes have suspensions in both the front and rear. 4-bar linkage bikes are similar to dual suspension bikes, but they feature a fourth link that helps to stabilize the bike. Which one is the best full suspension mountain bike? When you are looking for a great mountain bike, you may be wondering if you should get a full suspension or hardtail bike. So, what is the difference? A full suspension mountain bike has shocks on the frame and fork that allow for more movement and absorption of bumps, which makes it more comfortable to ride. A hardtail mountain bike only has shocks on the fork, which means that the frame is rigid. So, which one is the best full suspension mountain bike? Well, that depends on your needs and preferences. If you are looking for a comfortable ride and don't mind a little extra weight, then a full suspension mountain bike is probably the right choice for you. However, if you are looking for a faster, more agile ride, then a hardtail mountain bike may be better suited to your needs. Mountain bikes have come a long way in the past decade. There are now more options than ever when it comes to choosing the perfect bike for your needs. If you're looking for a quality full suspension mountain bike, there are a few things you need to consider. The first thing to think about is what type of riding you'll be doing. If you'll be hitting the trails, you'll need a bike that can handle rough terrain. If you're mostly interested in cruising around town, a less aggressive model will likely suit your needs. Next, consider your budget. Full suspension mountain bikes can be expensive, but there are plenty of affordable options available if you know where to look. Finally, take into account your body size and riding style. A bike that's too small or too large will be uncomfortable and difficult to control. Full suspension mountain bikes are becoming more and more popular. Here is a list of the best full suspension mountain bikes on the market today. Types of full suspension mountain bikes. Mountain biking has become increasingly popular in recent years, and for good reason. The thrill of riding over rough terrain, feeling the wind in your hair, and the sense of accomplishment when you reach the top of a tough trail is hard to beat. And while there are many different types of mountain bikes available on the market today, full suspension mountain bikes are becoming increasingly popular. If you're looking for a great full suspension mountain bike to take your riding to the next level, then check out the list below. These are some of the best full suspension mountain bikes on the market today, and they're sure to provide you with hours of enjoyment on the trails. Hardtail versus dual suspension. There's a lot of debate over which type of mountain bike is better, hardtail or dual suspension. Both have their pros and cons, so it ultimately comes down to personal preference. Dual suspension bikes are more expensive than hardtails, but they offer a smoother ride and more control over the bike. Hardtails are lighter and simpler, making them easier to maintain. They're also less expensive than dual suspension bikes. Ultimately, the decision between hardtail and dual suspension comes down to what you're looking for in a bike. If you want a smooth ride and more control over your bike, go with a dual suspension. If you want a simple, lightweight bike that's less expensive, go with a hardtail. Front suspension only. There are three types of mountain bikes: front suspension only, hardtail, and full suspension. A front suspension only bike has a shock in the front fork, while a hardtail has no rear suspension. A full suspension bike has shocks on both the front and rear forks. The majority of mountain bikers prefer full suspension bikes because they offer more comfort and control than hardtails. Hardtails are good for beginner riders because they are simpler and less expensive than full suspension bikes, but they can be less forgiving on rough terrain. Front suspension only bikes are ideal for riders who want a fast, lightweight bike with minimal maintenance requirements. They are also good for cross-country racing because they provide more speed and agility than full suspension bikes. Rear suspension only. There are many types of mountain bikes on the market these days, but one of the most popular categories is full suspension mountain bikes. These bikes have a rear suspension that helps to absorb the bumps and shocks from the trail, making for a smoother ride. There are different types of rear suspensions, however, so it's important to know what to look for when shopping for a full suspension bike. One type of rear suspension is called rear suspension only. This system is found on budget-friendly mountain bikes and provides basic rear suspension functionality. It typically consists of two shock absorbers that are mounted near the saddle and help to cushion the rider's body from the impacts of riding over rough terrain. Another type of rear suspension is called full floating. This system is found on more expensive mountain bikes and provides better performance than rear suspension only. 4 bars linkage systems. There are different types of full suspension mountain bikes that use different linkage systems. The 4 bars linkage system is the most common and uses 2 links per pivot point. The bike moves in a straight line when the pedals are turned, which makes it easier to pedal uphill. The floating pivot point linkage system is also common and uses 1 link per pivot point. This system allows the bike to move up and down as well as side to side, which gives it better stability on rough terrain. There are also other types of linkage systems that are not as common, but they all have their own advantages and disadvantages. Horizontal shock systems. Mountain biking has seen many changes and advances in technology over the years, with one of the most recent being full suspension mountain bikes. These bikes have a shock system that allows for more control and a smoother ride on the trails. There are 3 main types of full suspension mountain bikes: horizontal shock systems, virtual pivot point, and floating linkages. Horizontal shock systems are found on most modern full suspension mountain bikes. The shocks are placed in line with the bike's frame, which helps to keep the weight down. This type of system is simple and effective, and is used on many different types of bikes. Virtual pivot point, VPP, systems are found on more expensive full suspension mountain bikes. They use 2 shocks, one at the front and one at the back of the bike. What to look for when purchasing a full suspension mountain bike? When it comes time to purchase your first mountain bike, it's important to know what to look for. Full suspension mountain bikes can be expensive, so you want to make sure you're getting the best bike for your money. One of the most important things to consider is frame size. Make sure the frame is the right size for you. You don't want a bike that's too small or too big. You should also consider the weight of the bike. Heavier bikes can be more difficult to ride uphill and can slow you down on descents. Another important factor to consider is wheel size. Most full suspension mountain bikes come with either 26-inch or 29-inch wheels. 26-inch wheels are smaller and more maneuverable, while 29-inch wheels are larger and provide more stability. Finally, consider the price tag. Price. When looking to purchase a full suspension mountain bike, there are a few key factors to consider in order to get the best value for your money. One of the most important factors is price. Full suspension mountain bikes can range in price from a few $100s to several $1,000s. It is important to consider what you will be using the bike for and how much you are willing to spend. Another key factor is frame size. Make sure you know what size frame will fit you properly. You can measure your height and inseam to get an idea of what size frame will work best for you. The type of suspension is also important to consider when purchasing a full suspension mountain bike. There are 3 types of suspensions: single pivot, dual link, and virtual pivot point, VPP. Each type of suspension has its own benefits and drawbacks. Frame material. When purchasing a full suspension mountain bike, there are a few key things to look for in the frame material. First, make sure that the frame is made of a lightweight material, such as aluminum or carbon fiber. This will help reduce the overall weight of the bike and make it easier to maneuver. Second, check to see what type of suspension system the bike has. There are several different types available, so be sure to choose one that will work best for your riding style. Finally, consider how much money you want to spend on your new mountain bike. Full suspension bikes can range in price from several $100s to several $1,000s, so choose one that fits your budget. Wheel size. When shopping for a full suspension mountain bike, it is important to consider the wheel size. Wheel sizes are measured in inches, and there are 3 main sizes to choose from: 26, 27.5, and 29 inches. The size of the wheel will affect the bike's handling and how easily it climbs hills. Bikes with larger wheels are better at climbing hills and have a smoother ride, while bikes with smaller wheels are more agile and easier to maneuver. It is important to test ride different bikes to see which one feels best for you. Suspension type. When shopping for a mountain bike, it's important to decide what type of suspension you want. There are 3 types of suspension: hardtail, front suspension only, and full suspension. A hardtail has no rear suspension, while front suspension only bikes have a shock in the front fork. Full suspension bikes have shocks in both the front and rear forks. One of the biggest factors to consider when purchasing a mountain bike is how you will use it. If you plan on riding mostly on paved roads or smooth trails, a hardtail or front suspension only bike may be a good option. But if you plan on riding on more rugged terrain, a full suspension bike is the way to go. Another thing to consider when choosing a mountain bike is your budget. Brakes. When looking to purchase a full suspension mountain bike, it is important to know what to look for. One of the most important factors is the quality of the brakes. Cheaper bikes may have brakes that are not very effective, and can quickly wear out. It is therefore important to find a bike with brakes that are durable and easy to use. In addition, it is also important to consider the weight of the bike. Heavier bikes can be more difficult to maneuver, especially on steep climbs. It is therefore important to find a bike that is lightweight but still durable. Finally, it is also important to consider the cost of the bike. While it is important to find a good quality bike, it is also important not to overspend on features that you may not need. Gears. A full suspension mountain bike is perfect for riders who want a versatile and durable bike that can handle various types of terrain. When shopping for a full suspension mountain bike, it's important to consider the bike's gears. A bike with more gears will be able to handle tougher terrain more easily. Additionally, it's important to consider the weight and size of the bike, as well as the price. When choosing a full suspension mountain bike, it's important to find one that fits your body size and riding style. Be sure to test ride the bike before purchasing it to make sure it's comfortable and easy to ride. It's also important to find a reliable retailer who will stand behind their products and offer quality customer service. Extras. When shopping for a full suspension mountain bike, be sure to look for key features that will enhance your riding experience. Extras like adjustable seat posts, dropper posts, and remote lockout systems can make a big difference on the trail. Make sure to ask about these features when testing out different bikes, and be sure to take them for a test ride to see how they work for you. Another thing to look for is frame size. Many full suspension mountain bikes are available in different sizes, so be sure to choose the one that fits you best. If you're not sure what size to get, ask the salesperson for help. They should be able to point you in the right direction. Finally, take into account your budget when shopping for a full suspension mountain bike. How to choose the best full suspension mountain bike? When it comes to mountain bikes, there are many different types of suspension systems available. If you are looking for a full suspension mountain bike, how do you choose the best one for your needs? Here are some things to consider. 1. What type of riding do you plan to do? If you will be mostly riding on trails, a full suspension mountain bike with front and rear suspension is the best option. If you will be doing more cross-country riding or road biking, a hardtail mountain bike may be a better choice. 2. How much money are you willing to spend? Full suspension mountain bikes can range in price from several $100s to several $1,000s. Choose the one that fits your budget. 3. What size frame do you need? Best full suspension mountain bikes under $1,000. If you are a beginner mountain biker, you may be wondering how to choose the best full suspension mountain bike for your needs. While there is no easy answer, there are some things you can consider to help make your decision. One of the most important things to think about is your budget. Full suspension mountain bikes can range in price from a few $100s to thousands of dollars. If you are on a tight budget, it is best to stick with a cheaper option. There are some great full suspension mountain bikes available for under $1,000. Another thing to consider is what type of terrain you will be riding on. If you plan on sticking to groomed trails, a less expensive model will likely suffice. However, if you plan on hitting more challenging terrain, you may need a more expensive and robust bike. How to choose the best full suspension mountain bike for you? If you are in the market for a new mountain bike, you may be wondering if you should buy a hardtail or full suspension bike. Here are a few things to consider when making your decision. 1. How often do you ride? If you only ride once or twice a month, a hardtail may be the best option for you because they are less expensive and require less maintenance than full suspension bikes. 2. What is your budget? Full suspension bikes can be more expensive than hardtails, but they offer more performance and versatility. 3. What type of terrain do you ride? If most of your rides take place on smooth trails, a full suspension bike may not be necessary. However, if you ride on rough terrain, a full suspension bike will provide more stability and comfort. 4. Do you want to upgrade your bike later? Which full suspension mountain bike is best for you? There are a lot of different full suspension mountain bikes on the market these days. How do you know which one is best for you? Here are some things to consider. 1. What type of riding do you want to do? If you're mostly interested in XC riding, then you'll want a bike with shorter travel and less aggressive geometry. If you're more into downhill or all-mountain riding, then you'll need a bike with longer travel and more aggressive geometry. 2. What size frame do you need? This depends on your height and weight. You'll also want to consider the size of the frame's cockpit and its standover height. 3. What materials does the frame and fork are made from? Frames can be made from aluminum,